Chat, news and your views. Alan Corcoran.
Keep your comments coming in. We're getting some very interesting texts and comments coming in. Jim taking our calls on 053 914 5222 or text me on 087 3737 956. Before the break we heard from Grania Cogan, who's working in oncology in the health service but is dealing with her own daughter's situation. Grace Cogan, who's just 9 years of age, suffering from a rare painful condition called Morcheo. Did I get that right, Grania?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And we just linked up before the break with Vera Twomey, who we've spoken to before. Her own daughter has a condition which presents its own difficulties. You're still with me, Vera, in Cork?
Indeed, hello.
Yeah, okay, Vera, just to remind us and remind the listeners as well about your situation. What are you going through with your little girl?
Our little girl, Eva, has a very rare condition as well called Dravet syndrome. And, excuse me, I beg your pardon, it's an intractable form of drug-resistant epilepsy. It results in countless seizures and they're uncontrolled. And what happened to Eva was she was diagnosed at 4 months old with the syndrome. And from there, really, I suppose at the beginning, you're told that it's drug resistant, but you don't really take that in at all at the start. I mean, we sort of thought, oh God, well, she'll be on 2 medications, 3 medications, and things will improve, but things didn't improve, and the medications might work for a tiny while, but then the seizures break back through the medications again. Eva went through 11 different forms of medications up until October of 2015, and within that time, the side effects of some of the pharmaceutical medications that she was on, she lost the ability she lost some of the words that she'd gained under one of them. She was in a coma for a week under another. She had a heart attack in November of 2015 after being given too much lorazepam in the hospital. What she suffered or suffers on a daily basis is just completely and utterly unacceptable. Eva would have up to 20 tonic-clonic seizures a day, which would be the big seizures, the ones where you'd fall to the ground and shake violently. We had very few people to speak to really about Dravet syndrome within Ireland. So we looked towards England and Canada and different countries to gather information from other families and groups. Yeah. And we saw several years ago now, I suppose I'm researching medicinal cannabis with about 4 years.
Okay.
And we saw in other countries that children that were using medicinal cannabis to treat their seizures were receiving an enormous amount of relief from their seizures.
So very similar, like there's comparisons there with what Grania and Grace are going through as well, because you know there's a solution. Now, similar to Grania's story then, the implementation of the solution is causing problems, is that correct?
It's causing massive problems. We have been we're campaigning really since October of 2015 when we started writing letters to the TDs and contacting, yourselves and other radio stations to highlight Eva's case. Eva, we looked for help from the government at that stage. It took us from October of 2015 to May of 2016 to get a meeting with Simon Harris. We met him and he told us that, he was going to do everything that he could to help us. And since May of 2016, we have been up and down and back and forth, and we have been run ragged by the government officials and the HSE people telling us, get this, get that, come back to us. We get what they ask, we bring it back, and then they want something else. They want to change the criteria. We were looking to apply for a compassionate exemption to gain access to medicinal cannabis for Eva. Eventually, in the last weeks, our application is now in, and we're waiting for that to be processed. But aside from an individual application, it's more than that. Simon has the HPRA report, the Health Product Regulatory Authority report, on his desk at the moment. It's been on his desk since the 31st of January. He told us that, and this has been stated in the Dáil and it's been stated in the media, that he would have that HPRA report returned to us by now, so that the TDs and the people above in Dublin could look at it and see it. And he needs to release that report, because that report is the next step forward for
Right.
people like us that need medicinal cannabis to be legislated for, so that doctors can prescribe it and that we can gain access to the THC as well.
Okay.
The next part that could make massive improvement.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Vera, listen, thank you for updating us on the story and sharing the journey you've been on. I want to get Gráinne's reaction. And then I just want to ask you, Vera, what you made of the TV documentary last night, the primetime documentary. Gráinne, listening to what Vera has done, she has taken it right up to the ministerial level. Are you? Have you hit the buffers with your own situation at the moment?
Oh, absolutely. Like Vera, I'm campaigning, nearly 2 years as well, trying to get this medication. I have done exactly everything Vera's done. I've been to TDs. I have been in touch with Simon Harris myself. I have, radio, newspapers, everything to try and get Grace's story out there to get somebody to listen. And I was listening to Vera, and, she's trying to do all of that on top of actually looking after her daughter. The same as I'm doing with Grace. We should not have to do that. It is difficult enough, on a day-to-day basis, keeping everything going and trying to give our daughters a good quality of life and, make them feel the same as everybody else. We should be putting our efforts into them, not into fighting for something that actually should be available for them.
Yeah. I just want to get a summary then on the stats we have. Vera has left us now. She's gone to a hospital appointment, or has had to go to a private appointment. Cancer services are run through the Centre of Excellence system. This means travelling for treatment for a lot of people. We seem to want everything on our own doorstep, is the comment from Una. But that is the point that you raised, which is the positive point, the most positive point, to show that there is potential. There is a template out there. Travel, I'd say if you were going to get your treatment, you wouldn't mind travelling once you knew you were going to get it.
Absolutely. And yes, we need centres of excellence. Everyone does. You want the best doctors and you want the best nurses to be able to look after you if you have a condition. But you've also got, the other outreach places. You have, with cancer, you have centres of excellence, in Dublin and all the main cities. But you've also got outreach hospitals as well that will actually administer your treatment as well. So, a lot of times you can prevent, the travelling for patients as well. But obviously something is working here, so they need to look at that template.
Yeah, there's some more comments coming in. Be waiting for 17 months to see a kidney specialist, 13 months for a bowel scan and 12 months for a circulation test at University Hospital Waterford. That comes from Breda. Another listener says, I had an MRI scan in September and got an appointment to see a consultant, but when I rang up for a date to see him, I was told it would be 2 years. And here's a very interesting point as well. It concerns about the buildings themselves. This has been going on for years, says a Morley Mix sister by the name of John. So how can the health service say you will only be waiting so many months to be seen after the middle of this year? Same old, we hear state-of-the-art building when an extension goes onto the hospital. What about the state-of-the-art care for humanity's sake? So new buildings, new premises, new facilities, they're very welcome. But unless they're staffed, unless the waiting lists are reduced, people like John, they're not going to be convinced.
Absolutely. There's no point in building, new wards and new A&E departments if you don't actually have the staff to man those buildings and actually care for patients. We can't cope with what we have. Why would you put, new buildings on when we can't get staff to work in the areas that we're in already?
We're going to have to wrap this up in just a second, Gráinne, but since we're speaking to you, going through your own difficulties with your little girl, Grace, but also actually working within the HSE, what do you think the solution is to it? You're at the coalface of it. If you could wave that magic wand in the morning, what would you do? How would you fix it?
Oh, I don't know. I think what I would do is work from the top down, because I think what's happening is they're working from, the bottom up, and the frontline staff are actually, trying to run a health service. I actually think it needs to be looked at from the top down. So, the managers, the directors, they need to actually sit up and actually do their job and answer the questions and, answer why it's happening, what we saw on the television last night. Somebody needs actually to be held accountable for what's going on.
Yeah, I think politicians also have to wake up and just sense exactly that this is a key issue. There's a lot of criticism of Deputy Michael Darcy, who many people believe didn't answer questions directly when I questioned him today, that he should have watched, if not the documentary last night, he should have watched it this morning. And they believe that this is indicative of what we're witnessing at the moment, where lip service has been paid. This is I'm just kind of summarising a few comments on this issue, where lip service has been paid, but actual real work is not being done on it. Maybe after last night's documentary, and even on a local footing after what we've heard this morning, people in power will wake up and smell the roses. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go this morning, Gráinne?
I suppose I'd just like to say, as citizens of this country, the one thing that we all should be entitled to is healthcare, and we should have availability and access to whatever treatments are available for whatever conditions somebody has, and that is not happening, and that needs to change, and it needs to change now.
Wish you well. I hope that the medicine and what you need for your little girl is given to her, and we wish you and Grace the very best of luck and health and happiness.
Thanks very much, Alan. Thank you.
Thanks for taking our call. That was Gráinne Cogan there from Carrickmacross in County Monaghan. More on the morning mix after 11.